The online fitness industry is booming. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I made my first $10,000 per month and how I've helped 1,300 plus trainers scale online. It's a very simple framework that I call the Triple M framework. That stands for magnetize, monetize, maximize. And it's very simple, but not easy. Okay. So the most important thing is, actually doing the work here, but let's cover the three-step framework. And yeah, let's just get right into it. So the first M is going to stand for magnetize. So let's cover that first on how we're going to magnetize people and what that actually means. So to me, magnetize means attention, right? Getting people attracted to your offer. Now, not all attention equals currency. The right attention equals currency, the right people seeing your stuff, because a lot of times you can go viral and 100,000 people see your reel, but nobody purchases. And so the second step is going to be monetizing the right attention to your page. So let's cover the first M to keep things simple. So I'm just going to put an M here. So, how do we magnetize or get attention to our Instagram and Facebook? So, first things first is we're going to use social media to magnetize people, to capture attention. And the greatest thing is that it's completely free, and all you need is your phone. You don't need a fancy camera. You don't need to do YouTube. You can do simple Instagram and Facebook and just stick to that. So, if you're starting from scratch, stick to 1 to 2 platforms. Don't overwhelm yourself. And then you can continue to move forward from there. Now, it comes down to three really important things. So, when you're first starting, you really only need two of these things. The first thing is going to be your offer. Okay. The second thing is going to be your content. I'm sorry, bear with me. I'm a terrible drawer, but and it's really difficult on the iPad. So the second thing is going to be your content. And we'll cover what types of content, what forms of content, but I just want to give you 30,000 foot high level overview first. So our offer needs to be, and I'm sorry, the third way is going to be ads. Now, we don't need to even worry about ads at first. If you're new, if you're brand new to sales, it's just, you probably should wait until you make your first 10 grand per month, unless you're really, 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 really like really good at sales. You have an extensive amount of experience with high ticket sales. Like you've closed $250,000 in high ticket sales. So, for example, we had a client who was doing high ticket sales for a coaching company prior to joining our program. So we ran ads from him within 7 days, and he skyrocketed and made $80,000 in the past 4 months. Now, that's not going to be the same case with everybody. Every fitness coach or personal trainer is in a different position. Most of you guys don't have that type of high ticket sales experience. So you don't even have to really worry about ads, but we will cover that as well in simple $10 a day low budget strategies that can help you even as a beginner as well. So let's just focus on, these two things right here, your offer and your content. So your offer needs to be unique, and it needs to be it needs to have specificity. So I'm going to say specialize. And I'm going to put specificity. Sorry if I spelled that wrong. Now, why is that important? Because in today's crowded market, if you're marketing to everyone, then you're just magnetizing all attention. It's going to be really hard to monetize it to build trust. Everybody's posting workout videos, everybody wants to be a fitness influencer, and I love that. However, if you don't have specificity, it's really going to be hard to stand out and make people say that this is the specific person that I trust in spending $3,000 with. Okay. And the third thing is that your offer needs to be high ticket, so high priced. Okay. High price. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to scale um, if you don't have these three things. Okay. Now, the thing is, like, a lot of people worry about a saturated market. And when you try to market to everyone, when you try to, work with everyone, you end up getting no one. But when you work with a small niche, you become the go to expert within that niche. So, for example, a niche that you can work with can be moms in their 40s struggling with inflammation. That could be a niche. When you are more specific like that, once again, you are going to be perceived as a specialist, an expert. And what happens with specialists? Specialists are paid way more money than generalists, and they stand out. They're more unique, and people search for this specificity through Instagram, through Google, through Facebook, and you are going to be like, your content's just going to resonate more. It's going to be more relevant to them, and they're going to perceive you as an expert. And when you're perceived as an expert, you're more trustworthy, right? So, like, if I'm a mom struggling with inflammation and I have these unique challenges that I'm going through, it's going to be really hard to trust some random guy where he's just helping everyone. Like, he helps moms, dads, normal people, any age, all across the board. But if I'm really looking to solve a specific problem, I'm going to be looking for someone who's putting out content and specifically helping out moms in their 40s who are struggling with inflammation or PCOS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? So we needed to be unique, we needed to be specific, and we needed to be high priced, right? And the reason why it needs to be high priced is because, just think about it, right? Like, a lot of coaches are making the mistake, and I made this mistake when I first started. So I'll just speak for myself. I was charging $100 per client online, like giving them a nutrition plan, a workout plan, and just literally sending it from my iPhone notes. Very simple, very easy, but not efficient, not effective. And I found myself like working with 10 clients, only making like $1,000 per month. But then I learned through mentorship that most coaches, or the successful coaches, are charging at least $1,000. So I started at $1,000 for my first clients once I went through mentorship. And I was able to make 10 grand per month within 30 days, just from shifting my price, to just from changing my offer. That alone. And this is what's going to allow for you to magnetize the right people who are willing and capable of spending that type of money. Now, it's also important that, like, your offer is positioned to attract higher income people. So generally, a woman in her 40s is going to make a lot more than an 18-year-old girl. Um, you know, Obviously, because a 40-year-old woman has a career, she has a husband that might be able to support her, she has kids, she's more established, right? She has good credit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I like, targeting people who are in the older ages, just because, they're willing to spend more. Okay. And when you're more specific, they can validate that high price as well. Now, what's going to make your offer unique is that specificity, but also the way you're actually coaching them and putting them through your program. And generally, I like to have three unique pillars, and that would come down to nutrition, accountability, and also the workouts. But the way you do that, you want to have a unique mechanism. You want to basically bundle up your program to sound like it's something that's never been seen before. And this is what's going to increase the perceived value and allow for people to actually say, you know what, this is worth two, three, four, $5,000. And we even have clients charging up to $10,000. So one of our clients has an offer where he helps gamers specifically. And that's super, super specific. And that allows for him to charge more money and also stand out in a crowded market. In fact, he started with only 50 or 60 followers, and he was able to hit $25,000 per month because of his offer. So he magnetized the right people to his page, the people who can perceive him as that specialist that solves a specific problem. Am I making sense? Now, Hermosi makes really good trainings about offers. And, it comes down to the value equation. When you're creating an offer, you essentially want it to come down to four components to validate the high price. So bear with me for a second here. I'm trying to. So when you're creating your high ticket offer, you want to think about four components. Okay, so Hermosi once again calls this the value equation, and there's four things that go into it. The first thing is the actual goal. So what is it that they actually want to achieve? So let's go to the gamer niche, right? Like, a lot of gamers are sitting down, they're not too active, and they probably want to be in shape. However, they're not really sure what to do, and they're stuck on video games all day, so they're not active. So let's say a gamer wants to lose 20 to 30 pounds and just be healthy. So the first thing is, you need to know the actual dream outcome that your customer wants. So I'm going to just put goal here. Okay. The second thing is that you want to shorten the time frame that they can lose that 20 to 30 pounds, right? The shorter the time frame, the more valuable that it becomes. So I'm just going to put time frame, and Hermosi labels this a little bit different than I am, but I'm going to try to simplify for you. Is the time frame to go from here to here. So the shorter you make that, the more valuable it becomes. Just think about like, think about getting liposuction. Like, why do people pay so much money for liposuction? The reason they pay so much money for liposuction is because overnight you can be skinny, you can have abs, you can build a big booty, right? Overnight, just snap your fingers, no work required, no gym required, nothing. And that's why it's so valuable. Now, obviously, there's a lot of risks attached to that. And I'm not telling you to go get a BBM or whatever it's called, right? But what I'm saying, I'm trying to just give you an extreme example of the time frame and why it's so valuable. The third thing is this effort and sacrifice. So I'm going to put sacrifice. Actually, oops. Oh no. Sorry. Bear with me. So effort and sacrifice. I'm just going to put E plus S. So the more effort they have to do, the less valuable it is. The less effort and sacrifice they have to make to achieve the goal, the more valuable it becomes. So let's go back to the gamer, right? So if you're a gamer who wants to lose weight while still playing more video games and only working out 90 minutes per week, this is an offer that's going to be perceived as valuable because it's like, okay, only 90 minutes per week. That's not a lot of effort. And I don't have to sacrifice the gaming. So you're telling me I can get in shape without sacrificing gaming. So once again, if we can go back to the example of getting plastic surgery, if you wanted to, if you think about getting liposuction, there's no effort and sacrifice really required, or it's very minimal. Obviously you're going to be in pain for a few days or maybe 7 days, but after that you're Gucci, right? It's not the same as having to go to the gym for a year to build a booty. So the less effort and sacrifice you can make it, the more valuable it actually becomes, right? And then the fourth component is belief. They have to actually believe they can go from A to Z. So these are the four components that you want to think about when it comes to creating an amazing offer that's going to magnetize the right people. And also, this is going to help out with the monetization part when you're on a sales call because people are more likely to say yes to a more powerful offer versus an offer where they have to, do a lot of work. They have to wait a whole year to lose 30 pounds. Like, who do you think is going to win? Let's say I can help a gamer lose weight 30 pounds in a year, but they have to give up the video gaming. They have to cut it back by at least 75%. They have to eat like a rabbit, and they have to, go to the gym 3 hours per day versus coach two is like, hey, I only need you working out for 90 minutes a day. You can still play as many video games as you want, if not even more and more efficiently and effectively. And I'll help you lose 30 pounds in 90 days. So you wanted to be realistic so that people can believe it, but also decrease the effort and sacrifice as much as you can, and as well as the time frame. Now, I'm not saying not to do 1 year long programs because these can be super high ticket $10,000 programs for a year. However, what I'm saying is you need to think about these core four components when you think about creating your offer. And that's what creates, Hermosi calls it, an irresistible offer. Am I making sense? Now, it's also important, we're going to discuss monetizing in a second, that when creating content, you keep this offer in mind. This is going to be, the foundation of everything you're doing with your content when you're speaking to your avatar, etc. Like your content should kind of have this ingrained into it, because if your audience starts seeing, that you're able to help people faster with less effort and sacrifice, that it's not so hard, they're going to once again perceive you as more of an expert and perceive you as a valuable person that can solve their specific problems. Am I making sense? Now, when it comes to pricing, like I said, this is the structure that I give my clients. So for your first 5 clients, you're just simply going to charge $1,000 if you're starting from scratch. Okay. And that's just to build confidence. Now, I don't suggest for you to stick at that number, because the more you charge, this is literally the easiest lever that you can pull when it comes to making more income, is just charging more money. Going from $50 sessions to $1,000 per program. Well, guess what? You only need 10 clients to make 10 grand per month. Now, after your first 5 clients for $1,000, you made 5 grand. Now you can proceed forward at your first 5 to 10 clients, and you can increase to 1,500. Okay. So now you have five more clients at $1,500, and you have more experience. You've overcome objections. You feel confident with your payment structures, etc. And in 10 to 15 clients, we are going to upgrade that to between $2,000 to $3,000. Now that's not going to be per month, okay? The $1,000. This is going to be for a 3-month program. All right. And these are really good price. This is a really good pricing structure to stick to, because I find that a lot of coaches, in their first 1 to 5 clients, they're really skeptical. They're really afraid. They stutter on their call. And so $1,000 is easy to do. And the way I like to pitch this is, I like, the simplest ways is just be like, great. So to work with me for the next 3 months comes down to a total of $1,000, or you can set up a payment plan for a total for $400 per month. So you pay a little bit more monthly, or you can do the whole thing up front and save money. Which one works best for you? This is like really the easy beginner style of dropping price. All right. So you can do or 400 a month. So it ends up being $1,200 total. And then you basically do the same thing with this, right? So instead of 1,500, it would be 600 a month, right? So they pay 1,800 over the long run. And then for this one, obviously just increase that monthly price by slightly more. So they pay a little bit more by doing it monthly, but they're incentivized to pay it in full. Okay. There's also a lot of other strategies that I'll cover a little bit later in this video that are really easy to get more people to do the PIFs versus the monthly recurring revenue. Now, I love monthly recurring revenue, and it stacks, it compounds. However, the paid in fulls is what's going to give you cash flow. And most of you trainers, your biggest problem is a cash flow problem. And the more cash flow you have means the more you can invest into growing and scaling your business, the more that you can invest into hiring people, into delegating, into systems, into ads to grow you faster when you're thinking about hitting 20, 30, 40, 50K per month and having more freedom, right? Eventually, you're going to want employees to start delegating tasks that you don't want to do or need to do as a CEO. So now that we got our offer down packed, we can now start magnetizing the right people to the page. If you don't get your offer down packed, I promise you, it's like building a foundation on sand. Your niche is so important. Your offer is so important. Ads will never work without a epic offer or an irresistible offer, whatever you'd like to call it. Your content's never going to resonate. It's never going to stand out. It's never going to be. It's never going to be able to compete with the fitness coaches who are, crushing it in the game, making 6 and 7 figures, because they have their offer down packed, their niche is down packed. They know exactly how to basically brainwash their audience, which takes me to the second thing, which is our content. All right. So the way that we attract people to our page or get attention, remember, the right attention is currency. Okay. The way that we are going to get people to our page is through the core 4 pillars of content. Now, this is what I teach my students and what I've been doing for the past 7 years to gain followers, to get customers, and most importantly, yeah, customer acquisition, right? Like, because at the end of the day, we're running a business not to be an influencer, we're running a business to acquire clients to make money. So the 4 pillars come down to vulnerable content. Sorry. Vulnerable content, transformation content. Sorry, I'm so bad at this. Transformational content. Okay. The third type of content is social proof. Excuse me, I messed that up. So the third type of content is going to be educational content or value content. Okay. And then the fourth type of content is going to be lifestyle content. So all this content is designed, for lack of better words, to brainwash people. So marketing or content comes down to getting people to know you, like you, and trust you. So we need content that gets strangers to our page, right? But we also need content that gets them to trust us, right? And then thirdly is we need content to get them to raise their hands. And that's where the monetization comes in play. So we're still in the we're still in the magnetizing part of this system right now. So all four types of content is going to magnetize people to your page, but some of them are going to be more for getting new followers and strangers to your page, new traffic, new attention. And some of it's going to be designed not for new traffic, essentially, and it could get new traffic as well, depending on how good you are. But it's mainly designed to monetize that attention, the people who you're magnetizing to your page, to turn them into customers. So this content right here is like the viral stuff, lifestyle content. This is going to be your what you eat in a day, your workouts, the trendy reels, 30-second videos, 7-second videos, 1-minute videos, day in a life, like what you do in your day. And I like this to be 20% of my content. So if you're posting 7 times a week, we'll say that you do this once, twice maximum per week, okay? And the best way to actually figure out what works for virality is simply just going to your competitors or fitness coaches and influencers and looking at what they're producing that gets the most amount of views. So if you go to any Instagram page and you go to the Reels thing, you can scroll down and see what is getting the most engagement and eyeballs. Now, remember, this isn't necessarily going to make you money, but it's part of the process of content. It's designed to attract people to your page, to magnetize people to your page. Which brings me to my second type of content. This is what's going to actually get people to like you, to trust you, to know you, to feel comfortable with purchasing from you. And that's going to be our educational content. I know I'm going ass backwards here from 4, 3, 2, 1 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. But and this content is going to be 40% of your content. So you want to post this 2 to 3 times per week, depending on how many times you're posting. This is tips, this is tricks, this is how you solve your ideal customer's problem. And remember, if we go back to the offer, the 4 components of an irresistible offer that Hormozi made, a lot of our content should be surrounded by this. So, how can someone lose weight faster? How can someone lose weight more efficiently? How can someone lose weight without the sacrifice of starving themselves or doing keto diets? These are the things that are going to be educational. So it's really important that you know your dream customer in and out like the back of your hand. That way, there you can design content that is perceived as valuable to them, that solves their specific problems. So let's go back to gamers. If I want to speak to gamers and resonate and be relevant, I'm going to create content that talks about, hey, are you a gamer who's playing video games for 8 hours per day and cannot seem to find a motivation to work out in the gym? This is how you're going to do it. Here's 3 tips that got me from, a fat gamer to an amazing shape. And I'm just giving you a very, vague type of structure. And then you talk about the solution. Hey, I counted my macros once per day for 10 minutes. Second thing is I started doing home workouts for 30 minutes per day. Third thing is I counted my steps. I got 10,000 steps, put a treadmill under my gaming station. That way there I can play video games while working out, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Now I'm 30 pounds lighter, more confident than ever. And I feel, and I even optimize my performance with gaming. So you see how I'm trying to create my message in my content to be valuable to a gamer, but also to be relevant and resonate with them. So that's going to be your educational content. That's going to be the most of the content that you are producing. All right. The next type of content is going to be transformation content. All right. So we got 40, 60, 80% already done. And then finally, vulnerable content is going to be the other 20%. All right. Don't know why that happened, but bear with me. I'm still getting used to this little iPad thing. So, transformation content is going to be social proof. That's going to be before and afters of your customers. And if you don't have customers, then use your own social proof. And another good thing that you can do is 5-day free challenges, 30-day free challenges to be able to create more transformational and social proof content. So, once again, if you don't have, a lot of customers, you're new to the online space or you're new as a trainer, you can use your own story every single week and post about it once per week, right? How you went from skinny fat to jacked, how you went from fat to fit. Whatever your story is, that's going to be your transformation content. And this is going to get people to know your story, like you a bit more, and also trust that you're an expert. Now, once you start to build clients, obviously this is going to be really important content. I would post that stuff at least once or twice per week and definitely put it on your story very frequently, possibly every single day. Okay. So don't ever get bored of telling your own story. the greatest marketers, they tell their own story 100 different types of ways and reuse it. Your audience, you might feel like your audience is getting sick and tired of hearing your story, but that's just not the case. It's just a limited belief. Finally is going to be your vulnerable content, and you can do this once per week. This is going to be like your story, hard things that you've gone through, because pain resonates, right? People don't resonate with perfection, they resonate with painful stories. It allows for people to connect with you on a human level. So, for example, I went through a nasty drug addiction, incarceration. I was also very poor once I came out of jail. And I use these stories all the time to be able to resonate with my audience and to connect with them, and this gets people to know you, like you, and trust you more. And that's the core fundamentals of, the basic fundamentals of marketing and getting people to trust you, because it's really hard to get people to purchase from you if they don't trust you, especially if you're swimming in a sea of sameness of other fitness coaches. So that covers the four core pillars of content that I teach my students. That is going to magnetize more people to your page, but also not just magnetize, but start to monetize. So this takes me to the second thing of the framework that we have here, and that's going to be monetizing this attention. So now that we have followers coming in, maybe you have 1,000 followers, you got likes, you have engagement, you got people commenting. How do we turn strangers into complete high paying customers? So to me, monetizing is just simply turning that attention into high paying customers. And there is essentially, we'll say, two ways to do it on social media. All right. So I'm going to change this to black. We're going to circle this. I'm going to slim this down a little bit. And cool. So, what are the two ways to do it? So, in our content, which we already covered in the magnetizing part of the framework, we put call to actions, right? Call to actions, CTAs. I'm going to put. And what that is in the bottom of your content, like at the end or the end of your video, your reels, you're just simply going to put, hey, if you're looking to lose 30 pounds, just like I did in the next 90 days, comment the word hell yes below and I'll show you how it's done. And what that's going to do is going to lead people into your DMs, right? And that's where you're going to start converting them or monetizing this attention into customers. So that takes me to the second thing is DMs. All right. Very simple. I don't think we need to go too deep about the CTAs, but if we go back to your offer, this is what's really important, because to get more people to actually, click or message you or comment, the offer itself of the CTA needs to stand out as being unique. And so at the end of any type of your content, you can say, message me XYZ for the details, and I'll show you exactly how John lost 30 pounds in 90 days without giving up gaming or his favorite foods. So the gamers are going to resonate with that. They're going to say, cool, this is valuable. I need to lose weight. Let me reach out. Am I making sense so far? Beautiful. Now, I don't suggest for you to do a direct marketing call to action every single day. Like if you're always selling, 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 it's going to kind of push people in the wrong direction. I suggest doing 1 to 2 call to actions per week just to get people to raise their hand and start monetizing your attention into, customers, into sales calls. All right. So the 3-step structure that it is it goes CTA, right? And that guides them to the DMs, okay? And then you guide it to a sales call, okay? And it's very simple. When you're doing your DMs, there's basically 3 things that you need to uncover, all right? So I'm going to put this in blue, all right? So first, they raise their hand from that call to action, right? They're like, hell yeah, I'm ready. Like, tell me more about what you have going on, whether that's from your story, your feed, whatever. Now, your DMs, all we need to uncover is a goal, a pain point, and a struggle. Okay. So let's say someone's like, I'm ready. The first thing I'm going to be like is, hey, thanks so much for reaching out. I appreciate you. Can you tell me about what your fitness goals are? Question mark. They're going to tell you what their goal is. From there, let's say they're like, yeah, I'm a video gamer. I'm constantly on video games. I'm not really active. I'm sorry, let me go back. They're like, yeah, I'm a video gamer. I want to lose 30 pounds and feel lean and look like you. So now we have a goal. We check that off the box, right? So 3 boxes we want to check off: goal, pain, struggle. Now we know the goal. Goal. Awesome, John. So you want to lose 30 pounds. What do you think your biggest challenge is when it comes to losing 30 pounds? And they're going to say something like, well, I play video games all day. I'm not really active and I'm not really sure what to do inside the gym. And I really don't have the time when I pair my job with the video gaming. Be like, got you. That totally makes sense. What are some things that you have tried in the past? Right. And that will get a struggle out of there. Right. So we got a pain, we got a struggle. And those are pretty much the only 3 questions that you need to ask. So, what's your goal? What's your biggest challenge when it comes to that? What are some things that you tried when it comes to losing weight as a video gamer? Okay. And then from there, what we're going to do is we are going to pitch. Okay. So, offer, call, I'm going to put. Right. Now, we're not going to pitch the price. We're not going to discuss pricing through the DMs because we want to change. We want to be able to communicate the value before dropping $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 bomb on them. Right. If you're just like, yeah, the program's $3,000, they're going to be like, yeah, no. Like they don't even know what it entails. And it's really hard to do that in the DMs. It requires a very high skill level, a lot of DM experience and sales experience. So just don't do that. Stick to DMs leading the sales calls like I'm showing you in the structure. Don't try to reinvent the wheel unless you've done like over $1 million in sales. I don't think you should be selling in the DMs. All right. So once we get the goal, pain, struggle, we're just gonna be like, John, I can totally help out with that. I was a gamer just like you, and I lost 30 pounds in 90 days, and now I feel more confident than ever. Would you like some help? They're gonna say yes. You're gonna be like, awesome. When are you free for a chat? I have 4 p.m. available tomorrow and 6 p.m. available. Like throw some times out the day you're available. And once they say, yeah, 4 p.m. or 6 p.m., what you're gonna do is you're just gonna collect their phone number and email, or you can use Calendly. You can send them a link for them to book the call. Calendly is a software for easily and effortlessly, scheduling calls. Now, it's really important that they actually show up for this call, or else we're not going to be able to collect cash and speak to the human being or help them, right? So I do suggest using Calendly because it has automated reminders, text emails, you name it. It has everything. That way they're notified 24 hours before, an hour before, and they are sent the link. You can do these calls on Zoom. You can do them on your phone. A lot of people do prefer Zoom just to get that, to see the emotion and actual visual experience of looking someone in the face, and it can build a lot more trust being on Zoom. So most people do use Zoom. I'm kind of old school. I used to do phone calls all the time, and that's what I was comfortable with, and it worked very well for me. I was closing at 40%. But a big thing here is, I would say the biggest struggle in this part of the framework is like most people expect people to answer within 2 seconds and then they just quit. If someone kind of ghosts you, it might not be intentional. It might be because they're busy playing video games, right? And so you don't want to give up just because you're like, okay, John, what's your biggest challenge? And you don't hear back from them in 24 hours. So it's really important that you're following up with people in 24 hours, 72 hours, 7 days. Hey, John, any thoughts on this? Hey, John, you told me that you were struggling with XYZ. Can you tell me more about that? Hey, John, it's Eric here. I was just playing Call of Duty right now and it reminded me of you. Can you tell me more about what your struggle is? I think we left off with, your goal being 30 pounds down, right? Voice notes, videos, this is all going to increase your conversions, getting more people on the sales calls. All right. So don't give up if they ghost you once, twice, 3 times. Just keep following up. Don't follow up the same day. Give it some breathing room. 24 hours, the next follow up 72 hours, the next follow up 72 hours. And it's always good to be like, hey, John, I'm playing, like if we're talking about gamers, I'm playing Call of Duty right now, and I thought of you. What's your gamer tag, by the way? Like, get them engaged in the conversation. Oh, by the way, yeah, here's my gamer tag. Oh, cool, man. I'll see you on Call of Duty tonight. I'm playing at 8 p.m. By the way, what are your thoughts on, what you said, what you tried in the past? What are your thoughts on my last message, right? Get them to engage in a conversation again, and then you can lead it to a sales call. All right. So it's totally normal for people to not respond, is what I'm trying to say. Where a lot of people fail is they're like, cool, I got some leads, I got people responding, but no one's booking. It's like, okay, well, how many times are you following up? Are you offering the call? Are you saying the right stuff in the DMs? So it takes a little bit of time to say the right stuff and learn what to say in the DMs. But it's very simple structure. What's your goal? What's your struggle? What are some things that you've tried? All right. Are you down for a quick chat? Yes. Book the call. All right. Now the call. These calls are going to be around 30 to 45 minutes. Okay. So I'll put 30 minutes to 45 minutes. All right. So once you get on the call, I'm going to start a new little page here. Okay. I'm going to just name it, sorry, sales. And hopefully you guys are hopefully I'm explaining this, clearly, because I really want to see you guys succeed. Um, this is where we start to monetize that attention. This is where we start to monetize our content and our leads, etc. This is where it all goes down in the sales call. So the sales call is, it's challenging at first if you're new to sales. Even for myself, I was doing sales for about a year at LA Fitness, and my first 10 sales calls, I didn't close. I didn't close the first 9, I'm sorry. And then the 10th one, I closed at $1,000. And I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing since sliced bread. I was like, I can't believe that I just made $1,000 in 30 minutes just by posting content. I didn't spend any money on it. I didn't, have to drive to someone's house. I didn't have to give anybody a chunk of that change, a percentage of it, like the gym taking 50% of your check or more. I made $1,000 in 30 minutes. And that's when I had that epiphany moment. I realized I was like, wow, this is literally the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, I wish I would have done this sooner. That was my only regret, is not doing this sooner. And so, I've done thousands of sales calls at this point. I've gotten thousands of clients. I'm fairly, I would say I'm advanced at sales, but to keep it, really high level, simple, it really comes down to a few things. All right. Just to keep it simple, I'm not going to pull up the whole sales script in front of you, but I'm just going to go over the high level overview structure. Cause like literally, if we were going to go over sales, this training would be like 2 hours long. Okay. So, and I do have other trainings in my YouTube. If you just go to somewhere on the page, you can find like sales scripts, uh, sales training specific, like what to do on the call, what to say, the questions to ask. Just comment sales below and I'll send it over to you to make it easy for you. All right. So it really comes down to introduction. So intro. So you hop on the call. You're like, hey, John, nice to meet you. Where are you calling from? Intro/rapport, we're going to call it. Now, a lot of salespeople will go and make the mistake of building too much rapport. They're talking for like 5 to 10 minutes about, how their day is going, how the weather is. I just like to be like, John, where are you calling from? And they're like, okay, I'm over in Miami. I'm like, awesome. Do we have about 30 to 45 minutes set aside today? Yes. And I get right into it. Cool. So the way this call is going to go down, man, is I'm going to ask a few questions about where you're at right now compared to where you'd like to be, just to see what that gap looks like, to see if we can help. And then towards the end of the call, I'll walk you through what we have going on here. And if it sounds like it might be a good fit, then we could talk about, next steps and see if it makes sense for you. Does that sound good? Awesome. Cool. So I keep it really simple, get right into the nitty gritty. Now we're getting into discovery. So, discovery, think about it like you're a doctor, right? We're discovering their pain points, their problems. That way, there we can actually diagnose them and prescribe them the right medication. In this instance, it's not going to be medication, it's going to be your solution, which is your program, right? So, discovery is probably the most important. It is the most important part about the sales call. The goal is not to sell them, it's to get them to sell themselves on why they need you. And if you think about it, right, the prescribing medication to somebody without diagnosing them is malpractice, right? You get what I'm saying here? So that's like you just being like, yeah, the program's $2,000. That's malpractice. You don't know anything about them. So think about the discovery and asking questions as you are diagnosing them. That way, there you can prescribe them the right solution, right? So I'm going to put bullet points here. Discovery is we need to know goals, okay? Pain points, okay? This is going to be the most important thing is pain points, just to keep it super high level. Struggles. I'm going to make this a little bit easier. I'm going to put struggles and then pain points just to go in an easier order for you guys, just so you understand this a little bit more. So goals, struggles, pain points, and then the fourth thing is going to be consequences, urgency, meaning how quickly, do they want to solve this problem? Urgency. And then vision. And that's it. That's it. I mean, my sales like philosophy and framework is a little bit more in depth in this, but once again, I'm just giving you a very beginner level strategy. And I'm going to cover this. We're going to zoom in a little bit on each part of this, the questions to ask, etc. in a moment. Not every question, but high level overview. Okay. After discovery, we have the offer. Okay. And this is only going to be, I'm actually going to make this easy for you guys. This is only going to be 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Actually, I'm going to put this in red just to make it a little bit more clear. 5 minutes. Hopefully, you guys understand my writing here. Okay. Discovery is going to be the longest part. This is where you're asking questions. This is going to be, we'll say for a beginner, 15 to 20 minutes. Once you're advanced, it can run 20 to 30 minutes depending on the offer price. And intro rapport is literally 1 to 2 minutes max. So we're not like, hey, how's the weather? Where are you from? Blah, 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 blah. Like, who cares, bro? We're here to solve a problem, right? So 1 to 2 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes in discovery, 5 minutes offer, and then the rest is going to be objections. Okay. And that could be the remaining part, the remaining amount of your call. So we're about 20, 25 minutes. And then this makes it 30 minutes. So this can honestly, I'm going to put 5 minutes as a target, as a benchmark, but it could honestly take, you know, 15 minutes depending on who you're speaking to. All right. So all in all, we got about 30 to 45 minutes here, depending on how long you're overcoming objections. Now, the goal is not to like push them in objections, is actually to pre-frame and overcome objections right here. Okay. By getting them to overcome limiting beliefs and objections throughout the call. So there's four main objections. You got wife, you got timing, you got think about it, and you got money. Those are like the four biggest objections. Now there are more. Those are the main objections. And through our discovery, we're going to attempt to overcome those objections, to pre-frame them, to handle them before we even drop price, go through the offer or anything. So let's zoom in here. We got intro. So we're like, hey, John, awesome to speak with you. I'm Eric here. Where are you calling from, by the way? Oh, I'm in Miami, Florida. Awesome, dude. I'm in Miami too. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. Do you have about 30 to 45 minutes? They're like, yes. You're like, awesome, cool. So let's dive right into it. Beginning of this call, and this is where you set expectations, and I'm going to include this in intro report. The beginning of this call is super basic, man. We're just going to talk about where you're at right now versus where you'd like to be, just to see what that gap looks like, to see if we can help. And then what I'll do is I'll walk you through what we have going on here and how I've helped gamers like you lose weight. And if it sounds like it might be what you're looking for, then we can talk about possibly taking some next steps. Does that sound good? Yes. Awesome. So we set the expectations for the call, get right into the nitty gritty. Okay, John. So tell me what your goals are, bro. Like, what would you like to achieve? Right? What are we doing here? Right? So they're going to tell you whatever the goals are. You can tell me more about that, right? Dig, probe. It's called probing. Tell me more about that. Okay. So what time frame would you like to be there? Okay. And how would you like to feel? Okay, great. So these are some questions that you can ask. I have way better questions in our sales training, but I just want to give you once again a high level overview. Okay. And how would you like to look? Hey, John, if you could look like and feel like anyone, like what would that look like? Right? Those are some good goal questions. All right. John, so we want to lose 30 pounds. We want to continue video gaming. We want six pack abs and we want to feel better. What are your biggest challenges when it comes to doing that? So now we're getting to know their struggles. What's your biggest challenge? What is your struggle? What have you tried? How long you've been struggling with that? And then you want to ask, okay, tell me more about those things that you have tried. How did that work out? Have you ever worked with a trainer before? Have you ever worked with an online fitness coach? How did that go? What was that experience like? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we really want to diagnose and figure out what their biggest challenge is here, right? And they might tell you, I'm doing cardio, I tried keto, I tried this. Okay, got you. And you're just going to really listen to them. You don't need to coach them. Like one of the biggest mistakes new salespeople make is that they're like coaching through the call. You just need to ask a lot of questions to diagnose them. All right. Then we get into pain points. Like this is how they actually feel about where they're at right now. This is where we start to create urgency and build a gap between where they are and where they want to be. So, John, tell me, you've been struggling with this for the past 5 years, playing video games, not active, and we're overweight right now. How does that, I guess, make you feel? Right. So we get into those pain points of how it makes them feel, and and then dig deeper and probe more. Okay, well, how's that make you feel? Right? How's that make you feel? Has that affected you? How has that affected your family? Has that affected your gaming? Has that affected your focus, your career? Tell me more about that. So getting to the pain points. Why is it important for you to achieve XYZ goal? Why is that important to you? Dig and probe. Okay. And then we get into consequences, super important. So now that we're like, okay, cool. So it's been really exhausting. It's been bothering your peace of mind. So, John, let me ask you, consequences is like, all right, what is the consequence if they continue on this route? So let me give you a very extreme example. So let's say someone has diabetes and you're like, okay, have you gone to the doctor for that? What did they say? They said, well, if I, if I'm pre-diabetic right now, another 6 months, I'm going to be fully diabetic if I don't start getting healthy. So you're like, okay, let me ask you this. Let's say 6 months to a year goes by and you are fully diabetic and now you have to use a needle, you have to, cut back on everything that you eat. How would that feel? Right? So we're starting to create a bigger gap and create more urgency. And they're going to start to realize like the pain of staying the same is a lot greater than the pain of change and investing into themselves. This is where we make the pain completely unbearable, where they feel that it's completely necessary and mandatory for them to change, right? We want to make that pain feel completely unbearable. Okay, John, so how would you feel then? Oh, I would feel terrible. It would suck to be fully diabetic, right? And I'm giving you a very extreme example so I can really paint the picture here. And then you ask, well, would you be okay with that? Are you willing to settle for that? Is that something you're willing to accept? Right? Am I making sense? And the next thing is urgency. Okay, so how quickly do we want to solve this? Is this like a now thing for you or like a later thing? So you don't need to dive too deep into urgency, but just like one or two questions like, is this really important to you right now? How quickly would you like to solve this problem? What is this something that you're looking to solve now? Is this a now or later thing for you, or do you want to keep procrastinating? And they're going to tell you, oh no, I want to change right now, right? And then vision. Okay, John, great. So we discussed a lot right now, throughout this call. I really appreciate you. So let's talk about the good stuff, man. Let's say 6 months from now, we got you ripped, six-pack abs. You're no longer pre-diabetic. Don't have to worry about taking pills. You don't have to worry about the sticking a needle in your ass. How would you feel then? So get them starting to vision the future self of how they're going to look and feel, 6 months from now with six-pack abs and gaming better and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, now we get into offer. We're like, cool. I really appreciate you so far with all my questions so far. It's been super helpful. So we start to transition to offer. The good news is I can definitely help you out, John. I know I can help you lose the 30 pounds and feel better than ever. Would you like me to walk you through how that will work? They're going to say yes, in most cases, hopefully, right? I've never really had someone tell me no. Maybe one out of a million people. Not that I've done a million people, but you get the point. And the offer is very short, 3 to 5 minutes long. Okay. Your offer is going to be, remember, go back to the value equation of Alex Hormozi of effort and sacrifice and, everything else that we mentioned. But your offer should just be three pillars, very simple. One's going to be workouts. Second thing is going to be nutrition. And the third thing is going to be accountability. You get more advanced, you'll create fancier names for your mechanisms and stuff like that. So you're not going to dive too deep into that, but you're simply just going to communicate how you're going to bridge that gap of where they're at versus where they want to be. Okay, John. So the first thing is the workouts, right? You mentioned earlier that you're sedative, that you're playing video games all the time, and that you're not really sure what to do in the gym. Does that sound about right? Yes. Great. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to give you 90 minutes of workouts per week. We're going to start off very slow. And inside my app, it's going to tell you exactly what to focus on so that you can burn fat at least 2 to 5 pounds per week without giving up gaming and also without having to go through the guesswork of what to do. This is going to allow for you to feel stronger, feel leaner, and feel more focused with your video gaming and your career. Does that make sense? Very simple, very short. So I'm just solving your problem and I'm giving you kind of a vague offer. Does that make sense? Yes. Then we go into nutrition. Cool. So the second thing is going to be the most important thing. This is going to dictate 90% of your results. Do you remember when you said you're eating Cheetos every single day, you're snacking very frequently, you tried keto diets and nothing seemed to work? Yes. Great. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to show you exactly what to eat while actually still enjoying Doritos, but just not in excess, where you're able to burn fat without all the guesswork. So I'm going to, give you a simple meal plan to follow where you're not stuck inside of the kitchen all day, where you're still able to play your video games, but also what allows you to feel more energized, more lean, and get the six-pack abs that you want. So every week, I'm going to be sending you a new nutrition plan to keep things interesting, but also things that you actually enjoy. And this is what's going to dictate 90% of your results. So you can get the six-pack abs, feel more amazing, feel more confident, and get off the diabetes needle. Does that make sense? Yes. Great. Awesome. Move forward to accountability. So the third thing, John, and this is what's really important, and honestly, side note, this is probably the most important part of online fitness coaching is the accountability. So it's a support, John. So education is important, information is important, but without implementation, it's useless. You mentioned earlier that you work with a trainer and it didn't work out because he didn't know what was going on behind the scenes when you got home. You played video games, you ate Doritos, and all that hard work didn't pay off. Does that sound about right? Yes. Great. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to coach you one-to-one. You're going to have weekly calls with me where I make sure that you're eating your nutrition, that it's actually sustainable and enjoyable, and that you're losing weight every single week. I'm going to message you every single day to make sure you stay on track. And inside my application, you're going to have check-ins every single week showing me your results. This is what's going to make sure that you stay on track, that you're consistent, but also so that you're not losing sight of the vision and so that you're still enjoying the foods that you love and it's not too restrictive. Does that make sense? Yes. Great. Awesome. From there, and hopefully I explained that well, is the price drop. Okay. Pricing. So you're just going to, I always like to say, okay, great. So does that all make sense? Yes. I always do the scale of 1 to 10 questions. So let me ask you, John, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about the program? 1 being this program sucks, my breath stinks, 10 being this is exactly what you need. If they're a 10, then you can move forward to the price. If they're anything less than a 9, then I'm going to challenge it. I'm going to ask why. So obviously we want a 10 here so that when we drop the price, it's a lot easier to close. And so they also have clarity on exactly what we actually offer, right? So let's just assume that it's a 10. They feel great about the program. They feel confident in it actually working. Then we're going to move into pricing. Okay. We're going to be like, awesome. So the next step is us talking about the investment. Are you ready for that? They're going to say yes. And you're going to be like, cool. So work with me for the next 3 months to help you lose 30 pounds, help you eliminate the pre-diabetes, and to make all doing it while playing video games and actually be more focused and be a better video gamer and also enhance your career only comes down to $1,000. Or you can set up a payment plan, which would be $400 a month. Which one works best for you? Simple as that. Keep it easy and then shut up after that. Don't keep going. Don't try to sell. Just keep it simple and easy. And they're either going to choose, one or the other, or they're going to give you an objection. Okay. Now, if we were going to go through, objections, it would really take forever. So I'm not going to go through that. But now I have different videos that overcome objections. But hopefully, you understand the actual sales process itself. From there, you can just use Stripe to collect the payment, and that's exactly how we magnetize and monetize our social media. It's that simple. I told you it's pretty simple. Now, the final thing is we're not going to cover ads in this video because this video is mainly for beginners, is the maximize. Okay. So, how do we actually maximize our revenue? So, the way we're going to maximize our revenue is simply by keeping customers happy, making them really happy and ecstatic, and keeping them longer, more retention. Okay. So, results essentially. At the end of the day, we need to get them results. That's pretty cool how it actually made a straight line there. I don't know how I did that. But anyways, that's going to come down to your back end offer. I don't even know why I put 2 lines here. So your back end offer, and this is really awesome. And you can build a really good business with a back end offer. Okay. So your back end offer, your front end offer is what we just discussed with the discovery. It's the first time you sell to someone. That's the simplest way I could put it. Your back end offer will be the second time that you sell someone. So after the 3 months, we don't just want them to haul ass and never work with us again. And this is why it's really important for us to have a great program, right? So that they continue and pay us again. And when you get people to pay again, guess what? You don't have to chase new clients every single month because you have predictable revenue coming in because your customers are happy. Also, it's just not cool to give someone a shitty program. So, we're going to hit a target of most of our clients have a 40% retention rate, meaning 40% of their clients stay in the program again. Okay. And it's really, really simple to do this. And this can increase your income and add 6 figures to your revenue rate now without even changing anything about your marketing, getting new leads or anything. So let's just say to make things simple. Okay. So your back end offer is actually going to be Less money, but more money. Let me explain. They're going to pay more because they're getting a longer program. This is the best way to do it, but they're actually paying less overall. Okay. So, how's the best way I can break this down? So, I mean, we have clients charging 5 to 10 grand for their back end 1 year long program. So, let's say with your first offer, your front end offer, you solve one problem. But what does this do? This creates a new problem. So let's say someone wants to lose 30 pounds. That's cool, but does that make them get a six pack abs? Does that make them look like a bodybuilder? Does that sculpt the body of their dreams in 3 months? No. We all know that. We're in fitness. We've been building our bodies for years. I've been building mine for 2 decades now, right? And I'm still not in the best shape of my life. So it's a constant work in progress, right? So once you lose your first 30 pounds, you might have some loose skin. You might not know how to build muscle now. So that creates a new problem. So your back end offer is going to solve that new problem. So that might be, sorry, I'm going to put solve problem. I should put problem two, right? I'm stupid. Problem two. So it goes into this. All right. So body recomposition. They now need to build muscle, increase their metabolism, and start, building the body of their dreams. Am I making sense? So with that being said, that's going to be a 1 year long process. It's a total body transformation. So let's say that you charge 1,000 for your front end offer. Your back end offer is going to be 20% less, but you're going to charge over 12 months. So I'm just going to give you a simple example. So 1,000 a month, if you divide that by, if you multiply that, divide it by 3 months, that equals 333 a month. So we're going to take 20% off of whatever your monthly price is, whatever. So if it's $3,000, you would take 20% off that. If it's $10,000, 20%, it would be $8,000, right? Just to make things simple. So 333 multiplied by 0.20 means we take $66 off of 333. So do 333 minus 66, and we have 267. So your your front end offers 333 a month, right? Your back end offer would come down to 267. Sorry, 267 a month. So we multiply that by 12, and the way we pitch it, so that'd be 3204 for 1 year. Okay, 3 months for your front end offer, and then 1 year for your back end offer. So they actually are paying less. You can see the difference here. And the way you're going to pitch that is you're going to be like, John, it's been awesome working with you. I really want to help you now do X, Y, Z. To work with me for the next 12 months, you're actually going to save a little bit of money by doing it up front. And it only comes down to 3204 instead of paying 123. Because if you look at it, it'd be $4,000 if they were to pay for the whole thing up front for 4 months with your current front end offer. Does that make sense? Because if you do 333 times 12, they actually pay about $4,000. It comes down to 3,996. So you're going to say you get $700 off by joining my 1 year program where we're going to focus on XYZ. So you get a big discount, right? Instead of paying 4,000, it's only 3,200. 3,204. Am I making sense so far? Hopefully I'm explaining this right. So this goes for any offer. If your offer is 3,000, your back end offer is obviously going to be like 5 or 6 grand. I don't have the math at the top of my head, but whatever your offer is, you just take 20% off your monthly and you multiply that by 12. Let me say that again. Whatever your monthly offer price is, you take 20% off that, multiply it by 12, and incentivize them for paying the 1 year low program up front. Now, if they're like, yeah, can I do monthly instead? You're going to be like, well, if you do monthly, it's going to stay at 333 a month, right? And you could do 267 a month to keep monthly recurring revenue if it's really a deal breaker. But honestly, like a lot of people are probably just going to do it up front or at least half up front, or say yes to the 333 per month. Either way, like it's still back end revenue, like money without getting new customers, without chasing new customers coming in every single month. So if you do the math, let's say you're averaging 5 clients a month. Let's say you start your business right now, and in 3 months you have 15 clients, right? So if we multiply that by 40%, 15 clients times 0.40, that means we're getting 6 customers times 3,200 to keep things simple. 6 customers times 3,200. That means every 3 months you can predictably make 19 have a huge cash injection of $19,200 just by keeping customers longer. Multiply that by 4, okay? And that's literally $76,000 added to your top end, to your fucking yearly income, just by retaining 40% of your clients, just by getting 5 customers per month and retaining 6 of them total every 3 months. Just by getting 15 customers every 3 months, we'll say, and keeping 6 out of that 15. That's it. Now, obviously, some of them will pay in full. So even if we're being, I mean, some of them will pay monthly. So even if we're being modest, it's still $76,000 in revenue. But if we divide that by 2, at least $38,000 in cash collected. That's what some people make per year. You're making in you're adding to what you're making on top of the $10,000 a month that you're, or the 5,000, I'm sorry, a month you're making from $1,000 per customer. And obviously, the more you charge, like once you get into the $2,000 to $3,000 programs, you're multiplying that without ads. Making sense? So this is how you maximize your revenue without adding new leads, adding new customers, literally just by keeping customers happier longer, etc. Even at 20%, if we cut this in half, it's still $10,000 that you're making every single, about $9,800 that you're making every single 3 months. Multiply that by 4, because there's 3, 6, 9, 12. 4 times 3, obviously that's $40,000 per year that you're adding to your business in cash. About $20,000 if you just count them doing like monthly payments, but $40,000 in revenue, contracted revenue, right? So super solid. You got to maximize. Now the key to this is at 3 months, you don't want to like hop on a call with him 4 months in. 3 months equals 4, 8, 12, 12 weeks, right? So at 10 weeks is when you want to do what we'll call the ascension call, the upsell call. At 10 weeks, you're going to be like, John, I'm super proud of you. You have crushed it. You've lost 25 pounds, whatever it is. Let's hop on a call this week to discuss what's next. And on that call, you're going to do something similar to what you did on your initial discovery call, but just shorter, more condensed because they already trust you. What's your goal now in the next year? What has been your challenge? Like, what obstacles do you think we're facing when it comes to now getting, the body of your dreams, looking like Zac Efron, right? And they're going to tell you, and you're going to be like, cool, well, here's how I plan to solve it. And it's X amount of money, right? And some of them are going to say yes. Some of them are going to say no. That's just the game of sales. But I can tell you, it's a whole lot easier to sell to current existing customers that purchase from you once than it is to sell to complete strangers that never purchase from you again. So you're going to have a lot of people say yes to this offer because they already have built trust. They've already seen the results. They already work with you. It's already there. Am I making sense? So that covers the magnetize, monetize, maximize framework. I really hope this video was helpful. If you want to learn how we can help you implement this, then just click the link below to schedule a strategy call. If not, drop a comment with what you need help with, and I'm happy to send a video that's more specific to your situation. Talk soon, guys. Peace.